development disparities. He has been actively involved in climate change activism for the past 12 years, and he has been strategically positioned to engage both younger and older generations throughout his active engagement. We are so happy to have him lecture us this afternoon on climate change, and this is a discussion I'm really excited about because I hope to learn so much from his presentation. He'll be speaking to us on the science and impacts of climate change. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Olumide. Please, I would like to hand over to you now.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. And this is a great opportunity for me to speak to different colleagues, different friends across, anywhere we are from. Thank you so much to the SDG FCT team for putting this together. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I think you want me to continue, right?
Yes, please, you can start your presentation. The webinar is supposed to look at it. Yes, sir, you can start.
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful opportunity once again. Like I said, my name is Olumide Idowu, and I'm the Executive Director for International Climate Change Development Initiative. My conversation today, I'll be looking at, firstly, the science impact, and I will also be looking at how we can understand the impact of climate change. And we all know that this is not a new topic, or it's not a new thing that is happening to us as a country or as a continent, as an African continent. I just want us to also understand that climate change, as we know, is a time bomb, and everybody is, responsible for the consequences that we are facing today, because human-induced action also influence the kind of conversation that we see ourselves as a country and as a people. And the scientific understanding of climate change is actually based on the extensive research and data analysis that has actually conducted by different scientists, around the world, even with people that, focus more on community-driven conversation. And it also involves different studies that is an historical climate patterns and analyzing the current trends that we find ourselves now. And I'm sure that every one of us on this call be able to understand that the trend presently is flooding, and we can see it happening everywhere. Like yesterday in Lagos, the rain was as in from morning, like till evening. And, and this affecting all developing entity, and a lot of people are getting to understand that we need to take action. And so I will just be sharing some, some aspect of this issue of science behind this climate change that we find ourselves. Number one, we look at the issue of human activities, and how do we contribute? The burning of our fossil fuel, coal, oil, and gas, even in a country like Nigeria, for energy, for industrial processes, and even for transportation, is the main primary source of our human-created GHG, that's greenhouse gas emission. We all know that. And also the issue of deforestation, the side of the northern region, also plays a significant role, as tree absorb CO2, and even the removal reduce the earth capacity of what the greenhouse gas emission that we're talking about. So human activity is a very, very big issue that is affecting us exactly when it comes to the issue of science of impact of climate change. And we also have the climate vulnerability versus the climate change itself. A lot of people don't really understand the connection or the differences or how they're working on it together. And this is actually what we call the natural fluctuation of various, time scale. When we're supposed to have rainy season, we are not getting the rainy season. When we're supposed to, like Nigeria now, for instance, can anybody tell me if we actually have winter, summer? Some people even have what we call, there's winter, there's summer, there's another one again that we have across the, but in Nigeria, we can only say we only have rainy season and dry season. So it's such a yearly or, decade variation that, okay, somebody's like, I don't have PowerPoint, but I can share my talking point with you, with you guys later when I'm done. I can share my talking point with you, no problem. So what I'm trying to say, so it's very, very important that we look at that area that, this changing climate refer to a long term. When we look at the climate variability, a long-term shift in the kind of average temperature and even the weather pattern that we've seen over the decades in different countries and different entities. This is very, very big conversation that people need to also understand if we really want to understand the science of climate change. We talk about the issue of multiple liners of evidence. What do I mean by this? These are the evidence that human-induced climate change that we derive from a wide range of sources. So what are the sources that comes with the multiple lines, of evidence? These are include, most of these, we don't even have those, sort of them in this part of the world, the ice saw, which, provide records of past climate condition. But in Nigeria, the way we report from NIMET depends on the kind of satellite or the kind of observation that we see from NIMET, because every one of us depend on it. But when it comes to the reality of the kind of evidence that we find ourselves, we understand that the kind of temperature you and I are facing, the kind of weather or season that we are in now, is like we can even track the temperature change over the past years, the past week and past months ourselves. But the point here is, are we taking action? Are we making sure that this, lining evidence are showing to us how we can take action when such thing happens? We are not even certain, about the understanding of climate change, how it's very, very robust, because there are certain projection, or the way we are projecting a specific region or the specific local impact, different communities, different city, different states, the kind of climate modeling that we see in the prediction actually shows to us that the kind of future event that we'll be expecting, we need to take care of the environment. We need to prepare. And that's why you see a lot of people talking about the disaster risk reduction, which is a way of also getting ourselves equipped so that we can, provide valuable guidance on a broad pattern trends that we see. Is it the greenhouse effect that most of us actually understand? We know that is a natural phenomenon that is known as the greenhouse effect. We all know. But the point here is, this greenhouse gas, how do we cascade this? How do we explain this to the local community for them to understand? That is why it's very, very good when you use certain events that happen in the community to make an explanation to them, so that they will be able to understand the issue of greenhouse gas, or the issue of flooding, or the issue of the weather that changes time to time, and to start looking at what kind of space do they find themselves, to start looking at how can they prepare ahead to make sure that this issue doesn't affect them and their community. So it's really, really vital for us, to rely a little bit on the issue of scientific consciousness, because the science have spoken, and we need to keep up with the latest research that we find ourselves, and information that our, let me say our government, which is NIMET, is giving to us, so that we'll be able to understand that the science of climate change. And this knowledge also going to help us to serve as a foundation to inform our decision making, to inform our kind of approach or kind of solution we are putting to the environment, and to also develop an effective strategy to address the issue of climate change or mitigation and the impact on us. So we need to start looking at all those things to start saying that, oh, the issue of science of climate change is something that we need to critically listen to or understand. And we all know that the impact of climate change is crucial. I don't want to say this again and again. It's crucial for addressing, its potential consequences and implementing appropriate adaptation and mitigation strategy for us as a people that are at the receiving end. So this key area are things that I think we need to be looking at when we're talking about the impact of climate change or the impact of climate change. One, and many of you know, we are in the southern part of the country, most especially in Lagos. We see the issue of sea level rise. If you come to Lagos now, Lagos is living on the water, and we are still increasing in population, and this poses a significant threat to our coastal regions, as higher sea level intensify the impact of storm surge. Every day water find a way, water move back, water comes in, and threaten infrastructures, threaten our ecosystem, and even human settlements. If you have a family in Lagos that lives in a prone area, try to ask them what they face during rainy season. You'll be able to understand the impact that you are facing. Have they told you about the extreme weather events that climate change is expected to increase, the frequency and the intensity of the extreme weather that we see today? Just because we're in the rainy season, it has caused a lot of severe storm, flooding, and this event can cause significant, damage to, what I said, to our infrastructure, and it can also cause our ecosystem. If you look at the landscape of Lagos, how many of us can say we have farms to farm because the land have been taken away by erosion, by flood? We've lost a lot of lives. We've lost a lot of properties, and ecosystem disruption has happened day in, day out. And that's why you see that the shift in temperature and the rainfall pattern, are disrupting a lot of habitats, lead to a lot of loss of species. We cannot even find our animals or our mammals enjoying themselves in the water. It has altered a lot of natural mitigation pattern. It has impacted ecosystem services, like pollination and even water purification. So these are the effects of things that we find ourselves and we see. So I will urge us that we should look at this critically, because agriculture is affected, health is affected on agriculture side. The kind of temperature, the kind of rainfall, the pest dynamics, having a significant impact on agricultural produce, is giving us shortage of food. So, and this leads to several things, that crop yields, shift in growing season, and crop damages. So it's high time for us as people, or as citizens, or as a community dwellers, to understand that we need to prepare so that the issue of health consequences will not affect, or will not cause or cut short our existence in this kind of space we find ourselves. Food security has caused a lot of problem. Vulnerability population, such as elderly people, has been affected. Children have been affected. Even communities with limited resources. Everybody are, partially or particularly at a big risk of the issue of climate change, and how it is impacting our life, and how this is changing perception of patterns, how this is increasing temperature, and how this is causing, the kind of effect weather event that we see in the space. So in a local context, how do we make sure our community will build resilience? How do we make sure we all take responsibility when it comes to the issue of climate change? So I will quickly end by saying that, understanding this aspect of climate change, or the impact of climate change in different region and sector, is very important for us for effective planning, for adaptation and mitigation, and to create decision-making for ourselves, for our leaders to understand that scientific research, monitoring system play a crucial role for us to play, assess and, predict the kind of impact we want to find ourselves as a country, and to also see how we can inform our policymakers, how we can inform our communities, how we can organize ourselves, and how we can make individual, on how to best mitigate and adapt to the issue of climate change. So I'm pleading to us as an individual, collectively, for us to start taking climate change as urgent action, so that it will not be like a time bomb that when it explodes, it affects all our generation. Because when flooding comes, no one is left out. As long as you are staying in a prone area, as long as flooding is affecting your neighbor, it's coming for you very soon. So it is high time for us to prepare, to take community action, to make our policymakers to understand the impact on us, and to live a life that is just. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olumide, for a well-delivered session. The issue of climate change is something we all should take very serious. Like, the impact and the effect is so alarming. It's really alarming, and we all have to be very, very cautious. We have to be very careful with the way we act in our environment. Thank you so much, sir. We're very grateful. I'd like to know if there's any question. Does anybody have a question here? Please, if you do, kindly raise your hands up so you can be asked to ask. Okay, we have one person here already. Who else has a question? All right, while we wait for others, let's give room to Mr. Moses. Mr. Moses, please unmute yourself and speak. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Olumide. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I so much appreciate. Once again, thank you very much, sir. I hope you can hear me, sir.
I can hear you clearly.
That's awesome. Okay. For some, if I say for some decades now, I might not be wrong. I've been hearing about climate change advocates, and climate change agents and partners and the rest of them. A lot of people has been talking about this climate change, and it seems like it's not just becoming the topic of the day, it's taking much space on the planet. And my question goes like this: in regards to this climate change, because I'm an idealist and I intend to find the cause of things, because if we can get the foundational cause, we can be able to set out a remedy and bring out a standard suggestion or solution to whatsoever that might be the issue. Now, for the onset, we all know about ozone layer and also other things that happens within the atmosphere. But I really want to understand this dimension of climate change. What actually is the cause, and of which remedies or strategies has been developed that people need to advocate for its functioning or establishment, so that we can be taking it one step by step. I've heard a lot about people giving speech on climate change. They all start from what climate change is all about and the causes. But when it gets to what needs to be applied in order to create a remedy for this climate change, its negative effect, it becomes a low tone sound. So, sir, I really want to understand because I want to put all my strength into this as a researcher. What strategy has been brought into place and systems that has already been built, which its application can reduce the negative effect of this climate change to human health?
Yeah, thank you very much, Moses. You see, your question is just like you want to understand what kind of solution that you can prefer as an individual. Let me tell you, nobody knows it all in one day. But quick one, in my speech, I was emphasizing on individual action, how you and I can take responsibility and be ready and prepared for the consequences that is coming. First thing you need to first of all know is that, number one, when you hear climate change, leave that word climate change. Let's talk about the environmental impact. When you talk about environmental impact, then the word climate change comes in, because climate change leads to a range of environmental consequences, and which are very, very simple. Global temperature, sea level rise, melting caps, more frequency, even intensify natural disaster and everything is just English. But one thing that should be at the back of your mind is that how is all this environmental problem affecting my health, affecting our economy, affecting our social life, affecting our policies and governance, affecting our technology, innovation. Then from there, you'll now be able to understand what kind of solution you and I can prefer individually in where we find ourselves. In other words, anywhere you find yourself today, if you are staying in a community where you are now, what action have you taken when it comes to waste management? What action have you taken when it comes to flooding response? What action are you taking in highlighting the interconnectedness, interconnectivity, or the complexity of the issue that you see for yourself, and the solution you are providing without money, but with passion and courage? Because what you've said now is that you've been listening to a lot of people giving definition of climate change, but what is the solution that you can derive? And I'm giving you is very simple. Think about the environmental impact you see within you, the solution you provide to that environmental problem. Enough, just cleaning up your gutter, just creating an awareness for people to change their attitude about the kind of attitude they give to the environment is an action. So no little action goes without an impact. So look at that positive side, and the so-called dimension of climate change will be a broad understanding for you. And everything we do today that we cannot account for how we are contributing to the environment, then we are not doing anything at all. So our collective effort, individual effort, is the solution that we are providing. And that solution is not far-fetched anywhere, it's within us. I'm a flood victim. And when it happens to me in 2021, I asked myself, what is happening in that environment? I reported to the respective authority. The community comes together because the authority might not have time. The authority came together and I said, we need to put lasting solution to this canal, to these drainages. Action I took, I report this incident. Second, I make sure that the community members, the community leaders, CDAs, knew that that is happening for years and we need to take action. To God who made me my brother, today, I did not use any money, but I used the little knowledge I have to speak to the community people, because I was not the only one affected. A lot of people were also affected with this flooding issue. So it is the kind of action. And just to end it, our attitude, our mentality about environment or climate change is the solution to the problem we are facing today. And if we don't take this urgent action or talk about it, the solution will not come. And we will continue to talk about the climate change issue in our environment. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. We have two hands raised up. Let's hear from Setson, please go ahead.
Hello, sorry, my hand was up before setting.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ginika. And he said, our speaker said something about scientific consciousness. So before then, I'd just like to, highlight where my own understanding of climate change, which is not so different from what he's been talking about, what everybody's talking about. So from what I know, climate change is mostly as a result of increase in temperature, which in turn, leads to precipitation, increased temperature, glaciers melting. That's our ice, the glaciers, the ice melting wherever they are. So, and then which in turn leads to flooding and so many things. And we all know that climate change it's also mostly as a result of human activity, from transportation, food production, powering buildings, even consumption, even just consuming food and cutting down trees, manufacturing goods, and generating power, like I mentioned earlier. So with regards to our role in climate change, he said something about developing scientific consciousness. And me, I want to understand how exactly we developing scientific consciousness can reduce the impact of climate change. Because at the end of the day, it just seems like we are talking about it, we are trying to raise awareness, but the major people that would, move the needle to for something positive to happen is mostly I wouldn't want to say mostly with the government, but it looks like those policies would have to be in place. And at the moment, it looks like policies, guidelines, regulations are lacking in climate change, because people that are producing food are still going to produce food. People that are burning fossil fuels are still going to burn fossil fuels. So it's I don't know what. And again, I think enforcement is really lacking. So what exactly, aside we just developing scientific consciousness, because I like to be practical, when we develop this scientific consciousness, what next? Me, majorly, I feel it's just to raise awareness, and raise awareness. Because at the end of the day, those policies, those regulations, those guidelines will have to be in place to reduce the impact of climate change. If those things are not there, we'll just be talking and talking and talking. If governments are not involved, governments together with the private sector, we're just going to be talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. So how exactly do we actually practicalize this scientific consciousness? So I think we should talk about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've answered yourself. You've answered your question, definitely. Yeah, but let me say something there. When I say everybody's involved, remember the scientists, the community, the CSOs, the government. And in Nigeria, we always have this mindset that if the government is not doing this or doing that, let me tell you, I want to be very practical now. I've been in this space for years, and I want to give you a very good practical example. Let me ask you today, if you are let me use a community, maybe you are from a larger community in Ondo State, for instance, and you have a local government chairman, and you have a CDA, Community Development Association chairman, and you guys are facing the issue of sea level rise, right? And you've been reporting this case as a community person to the government. My question was, you know what they will ask you? You voted them in. And the second aspect of it is this: you and I live in that prone area that is being affected. Then the bottom line is, what is you and I doing to make sure that we respond to the right people, that we take urgent action? And you rightly said, scientific consciousness is just you creating an awareness. It's just for you to look at what a CSO, an organization, have came up with, that, okay, this is the problem we saw in the larger community, and this is the solution we are thinking of. You see, when government comes in, it is politics, and we all know And that is why most of us as young people that are talking about climate change, do we actually, if I ask on this call, how many of us have actually read the policy, climate change policy that we have, to even know how we can engage or how we can talk about it? Every one of us just boom, boom, boom. We say government is not doing this. Do you know our own responsibility? I'm not supporting the government. I'm just trying to let you know that they have large responsibility, but individually, if you are Yoruba on this call, let me first say it in Yoruba. Do you know what the language they call kilobade? What is the need for you and I? That is what killed the dream of the solution we are not seeing in our environment. And that policy and action that's supposed to create an effective policies or to regulate our policy or to regulate the kind of acts that we find, it is you and I that is causing that regulation not to work. Why? Kilobade, what is the need for me? If I'm supposed to enforce being put in there by a politician and I'm not doing that, rather I'm collecting bribe, how do you want the community, or how do you want you and I to take action when it's you and I, brother or uncle or auntie or mother, that is taking that bribe as well and is remitting that bribe to the politicians? So it is a little bit of you and I. It's a little bit of when the government need to take action, they put us there to damage us. We are using ourselves to damage ourselves. That is why you see that the climate change policy, even all the policies and the acts that we have the waste management, 2 different policies. How many of us that have even gotten to read or even get involved in this policy conversation that people are talking about? So you are talking about reducing waste, or all these things. If you check Lagos State, most of the conversation that happens on the waste management, you can see our governor now in Lagos State is going everywhere to enforce. If you people don't park your this year, I will block this place and I will enforce this. He's doing the right thing. But it is you and I that collected 5,000 naira for us to stand on that railway lane, to stand on that place that's supposed to be meant for drainages. Do you get it? That collect those such bribe. So when we are talking about the issue of government in this kind of conversation, we should also think inwardly that who is taking the kickback? Who are they giving the kickback to? So that we'll be able to understand that the issue we are facing is not only about us, it's about the people that is standing in between us with the government and the CSO organization, the civil society organization that is pleading on our behalf. How do we make sure that we give them the right source of the problem that we are facing in the environment industry, so that people will be able to understand the kind of action? You see, the way we react to things in our country is very, very interesting. I'm not against some certain things that we react to, but the urgent matter, we don't react to it in a manner that we're supposed to react to it. In other words, we react to it because of the clouds, because of how people are talking about it. But the main issue, the root causes, we left it behind. Thank you very much. And I'm telling to correct it if you think that's the
Thank you, Mr. Olumide. Thank you very much for your response. Like I earlier mentioned, I love to be practical, because at the end of the day, it's actually practicality that gets results. So with regards to the National Policy on Solid Waste Management and the National Policy on Plastics Waste Management, both on the national level and that of Lagos State, I actually know about it. I've reviewed it, and we both know that policies are policies. They are just pieces of papers until we have regulations or guidelines that actually make those things implementable, or that actually make those policies operationalized. So with regards to climate change policy, honestly speaking, I didn't even know there was a climate change policy. You just mentioned it, but I just checked and I just realized there's actually a climate change policy. And I know the reason why I've not really heard about it is because at the end of the day, I don't think there are regulations. I don't think there are laws. I don't think there are guidelines to actually implement that piece of paper. So what are we going to do? What do we do to make these policies operationalized? Because I kid you not, Lagos state government is doing what he's doing? Because there are strategies, there are guidelines. There are actually, recently we just produced something called the Extended Producer Responsibility. I don't know if it's Extended Producer Responsibility Guidelines on plastics. That's to get both the producers, just everybody in the value chain of plastics production involved. So how do we do this thing for climate change? Because at the end of the day, we're just going to talk and talk and talk. How do we make that policy to be implementable? Because people are doing what they, if you go to Port Harcourt, I lived in Port Harcourt for about 2 years, black suits and people that are causing the black suits and the, you know, burning whatever coal fire, whatever it is that they burn to pollute everywhere. Most of them are in the government. There is no, the policies are there. There is no guideline that is, you know, making people act right. There is no enforcement. So what is our role? What do we do as an NGO? I know you are the executive director of an NGO. What are you doing? What are you doing to get these things done, to get this guideline? I don't think there's a climate change guideline. I don't think there's a climate change regulation. I think there's only a policy there. So what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do, both as a body, as individuals? What do you think we should do? Thank you.
Yeah, let me respond to that as well. Let me quickly say that, you know, you said there's no guideline, but please try to read the policy, because the statement of guideline is the policy guideline. So when you read the policy step by step, you'll be able to see some key action that is responsible for the citizen and the responsibility of the government. You know, when people say they are doing policy advocacy, meaning that they are trying to cascade the policy into use. And when it comes to enforcement, it is also very key that we understand that enforcement is like having a consultation to develop kind of enforcement we need to see. Lagos State have a climate change policy as well. Even Labour, Nigeria Labour, they have a climate change. I have all this policy, not online. I have the copy. And all these policies are intertwined. They just try to draft something out and everything. But how is this policy? Like your question is, what can we do? Number one, as a civil society organization, your responsibility to create an advocacy on the policy. Firstly, to make the community to understand what the policy is all about. When you understand the policy, you understand the action you take individually. I said it. My governor, Sanwo-Olu in Lagos, is not staying in Yaba. He's not staying in Ikorodu. He will not come and sweep our street for us, but he has a responsibility to put the right people in place. Then these right people they put in place, how are we taking them, making them responsible for what they need to do? That is our responsibility as citizens, which is very crucial when we are creating policy advocacy. And we know the space is polluted. The space is porous. Everybody wants to secure his life, but how many people are ready to put their life in line to make the environment conducive? And that's why I see what the civil society are doing is to create an enabled environment between the government or the government and the community. In other words, to make sure that the community understand what the government is trying to communicate to them. And for the community to now look at what they are communicating, to demand for justice. And that's why you see individual responsibility, starting from cleaning your own environment or its vicinity, is key. People will say that I clean my drainage, but some people don't clean their own. By the time it gets to our own side, it's blocks. Keep cleaning. Because I will tell you, Nigeria is a big country. You mentioned the suitcase in Port Harcourt, and I can tell you a lot of people create awareness about the suitcase. And I know that government will not tell us they don't know about it. But are we going to say they're not doing anything? They might be doing something, and that thing is not showing to the citizen that they are taking action. But let me tell you, it's not affecting only us, it's affecting them as well. So the responsibility of the government, they need to intensify their responsibility. And civil society, community people also now need to understand that these people are not staying where we are staying, but they have some relatives that are staying where it's prone area. So let us take individual action and start speaking more on the policy that we see. You have the policy now. When you finish reading, you mentioned the EPR. even in Lagos, is a very big issue. Every private sector have responsibility now, but how many of them are being enforced? How many of them are being, we go after many of them to request for justice for people that have been affected. So, my sister, I will not say much, but I will say to you that it is very important by working together, we can create what we call a more sustainable future for ourselves, a more sustainable environment, and we can both come to a conclusion to say that everybody needs to be blamed. While we blame the government, we blame everybody, so that everybody can take action individually and collectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Olumide. I think Mr. Sutton has taken down his hands. I don't know if anybody has a question. If there's no other question, I'm going to welcome my co-host, Ms. Helen Okeke. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruth. Thank you, Mr. Olumide, for your time and wonderful presentation. I believe every one of us here has learned something today, and we're ready to go out and take action, start awareness. We take action in our own little space, just like what he has said. Yes, the government has a role to play, but we also have our own role to play. How do we dispose our plastic bottles? How do we manage our waste? A lot of things around us. Let us start with that. Collectively, we will now start seeing great impact in our society. So with this, since there's no other question, I think we've come to the end of our webinar for today. This is the first series. And I also want to say thank you to everyone that have taken time to attend this webinar. Just as I've said, let us go out there and take action. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I look forward to another conversation in the nearest future. Have a great evening, afternoon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
So how are we going to handle attendance before we go?
Don't worry, we've taken attendance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please, who is Galaxy A11? Your name, please, because I'm not seeing your name.
How about the person with ITEL Vision 1? Who is that?
I even sent a private message to him, but he didn't. I think he didn't see it also. But so maybe on group chat too.
Okay, yes, from the group chat.
I am Galaxy A11. I don't know why it's not putting my name, but I just
So
saw
what?
it now. My name is Oninechi Melvis.
Okay, Onyechi.
Melvis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The ITEL Vision, I think the person has left.
Yes, the person has left too. Maybe from the group chat.
All right. Thank you
so much.
Okay.